Continuing to here with episode 2 in Unit 4 when we talk about prospecting. This segment, we're going to key in specifically on some of those concepts that we hit on in episode 1. Let's get to our stuff here. So I mentioned cold calls. Again, a cold call would be a situation where a customer really doesn't know you, hasn't really worked with you before. A cold call could be something very similar, very simple as a phone call to a prospect, that you have identified that you need to make contact with, or stopping in and seeing them after making an appointment, hopefully, or simply bumping into them in a social setting. It's, again, someone that you don't really know that well, haven't worked with you before, but making a cold call there. You can always find out more information, even if your company has a pretty good database. If you are new to the job or new to the area, there's always more things to find out. So it's always important to have a good plan for some good probing questions to learn a little bit more about the operation, the business, or the team that you're working with. So those are cold calls. Now, people find these really, really intimidating, and I'll admit they're hard to do. And I drove past some farms multiple times while I dealt with the anxiety of pulling in and making a cold call. That I needed to work up the courage to stop in and talk to someone. Keep in mind, as a fresh college graduate at 22 years of age, and I at that point looked really young, believe it or not, for my age. There was a lot of individuals, whenever I pulled into their farm to fulfill my appointment and go prospecting, they didn't have any idea who the heck they were talking to, and it maybe thought that it was a 16-year-old intern that should be in high school at that point in time. So cold calling is difficult when you don't know who the people are that you're going to go see, and can be intimidating. But you have to work up the courage and understand that you're working a plan. And you have to plan your work and then work your plan. And if you've got a good one, it oftentimes will work out successfully, at least to some extent, as you begin to make your way into the marketplace. Cold calling is just simply part of it, and you have to learn how to do it and how to do it effectively. Okay, so what can you learn while you're out there prospecting? Well, the potential of the accounts that you're prospecting on. Who is currently doing their service work? If you're selling feed, who's their current feed supplier? Why do they, maybe if you can get an account to share with you, why they prefer a competitor over you? For example, I had a number of different customers that had not had good history with prior salespeople or our elevator in the place that I worked. And so we didn't have particularly a great reputation, and I had to repair some of that before I could move on and actually transition them from, very low likelihood prospects up to my A prospect list. Took a little bit of time, but I got there on a lot of them. Sometimes you need to know how or if you could serve them better or different than the current supplier, current salesperson that they work with right now. And then sometimes there's services that your business has really done a poor job of communicating. A customer may not understand. There was a whole segment of my sales territory that had never even heard of our company. Why, I have no idea. There was great dairymen in that area. There was great farms. And so they needed to know what we had to offer, why it might be better than what they were currently doing. And I needed to communicate that we even were there as players in the marketplace. So that was all as a result of just good prospecting. Now, I mentioned leads before. If you get a current customer who gives you a lead, that should go right to the top of your A prospect list. This is where that network, those relationships that you're establishing start to really pay off. If there's leads from people within your business, for example, if you're the agronomy salesman and the feed salesman comes back and says, hey, so-and-so that's not doing agronomy business with us is really dissatisfied with their anhydrous applicator this year, you might go out and make a call on them. That's a lead that you're getting from within your business. Again, move that right to the top of the prospect list. If it's, you may get leads from non-competing ag business people, maybe a lender that advises a customer to do business with you instead of their current supplier, an equipment dealer. Those leads are really, really crucial. Act on them quickly. The clock is ticking lots of times on those kind of things, especially if that prospect has shared that they're dissatisfied with something. They're obviously looking. So act on that lead, get to work, and go get some business. We would come up within what we call a prospect priority index. And I mentioned good record keeping, where you enter the names of specific accounts, who you believe they're most important, and start rating them. Again, nothing that you're ever going to share with a customer, but it's important for you to prioritize your time, prioritize your targets, and people are going to move up and down on that list based upon what you learn on them. There was a 3,000 cow dairy in my sales territory. Didn't take me very long to figure out they were long-time 25-year customers of Purina, and they absolutely worshipped the gentleman who was doing their ration work. Absolutely, I wanted them as a customer. I could have spent a lot of time calling on their farm, and probably and never got anywhere. So honestly, they were fairly low on my prospect priority index because simply they had a ton of loyalty to their current supplier that I was not going to beat anytime soon. So you have to be honest with yourself on where they rate and put them on a prospect priority index. Again, helping you prioritize your time and prioritize whom you make calls on. Identify the action prospects, get them towards the top. And that way you plan your calendar, plan your sales calls out so that you're effective, efficient, and hopefully successful. So as you develop information on your top prospects, figure out who the decision makers are, whether it's just names or names and contact information, personal information. Get whatever you can. We think about the classic dad and two sons operation. Who's really making the decisions there? You may be talking to one of the sons, and they have no power to make any decision whatsoever. It has to go through dad or grandpa. So you have to know whom the decision makers are really on the farm. Because if you're talking to someone who cannot make a decision at some point in time, that you'll get stalled out. You need to learn as much as you can about the business. The type of business, the size. Key employees are super, super critical. Never overlook key employees on the operation. That employee who operates the planter tractor, develop a relationship with them. They may not have anything to do with making a decision formally, but informally they're going to have input. In places of agribusiness, never bypass the secretary. Never discount even the custodian, because that relationship and how you treat them probably gets passed along to other people in the office space. So develop as much information as you can about the business and the key players. Develop information on potential needs, profit goals, current suppliers, their satisfaction level. Some of these are going to be established with kind of indirect and delicately posed questions or simple good observation. Make sure that you understand past history with this account that you may have or your company may have, maybe long before that you've ever gotten there. But sometimes there's history and purchasing trends and barriers that you might have to break down before you can be successful. And then, list some current challenges you have in selling to that account. Some of them maybe take a long time in order to get around, but at least if you know them, you can strategize specific goals to hopefully accomplish those and break those barriers down and address those challenges. Make the prospect feel comfortable with you. Understand that as a Southern Illinois boy, in my history, moving to Central Michigan, where nobody knew me, nobody knew my name, nobody knew my history, nobody knew that I came from a farm. I wasn't a Michigan State University graduate. Honestly, that was important, I guess, up there. But understand if you make moves like that, if you're moving to a territory or a market where that you're not known, you're going to be judged on how you talk, whether you dress appropriately in their eyes or not, the manner in which you ask questions, if it's threatening or non-threatening, how you come across in the information that you deliver, how clean you keep your pickup truck. There are all things that you're going to be that a prospect is going to take mental note of. Whether they take it seriously or not, who knows? But you just never know what image that you come across as, or how you speak, how it affects a prospect. And sometimes those things take a little bit of time to get around, and you have to be patient and understand it's part of it. It took me a lot of time to figure out what things were important to folks in Michigan, and that Michigan State University was very important as an informational source. And so I needed to tap into that extension service up there and utilize those professionals as the informational pathways that they were bringing out. That was important to that customer market. And I needed to be able to communicate and talk with those customers and prospects that way about the things that were being pushed out through the extension system, and be well educated in it. That helped me a lot in that area. You'll find things like that occur in your sales career as well. So again, keys. Great probing questions with a purpose. I cannot continue to drive that point home well enough. Is probing questions with a purpose, and then take good notes on them. Really, really listen to replies whenever you ask good questions. Sometimes they answer the exact question that you're asking them. Sometimes they answer a different question and start to accidentally give you valuable information that you weren't necessarily anticipating to get at that point in time. Customers sometimes do this consciously, sometimes do it subconsciously and accidentally, and will start to volunteer information about a current supplier, a current business that they're working with that's maybe irritating them, or just doesn't sit well with them, or they wish that they would handle differently that they're not, which creates an opportunity for you. So really, really listen to customers, prospects whenever they're speaking. And again, take great notes on the things that you learn so that you can utilize them and know when to utilize them in the selling process. As you collect the information, you're going to hopefully build what I call a value package that you're going to put together to try and meet their needs. If you understand the different things that a customer needs, and then you understand what products maybe fit those needs and what they are looking for from a supplier, from a leader, you can now start to build that value package, because it's going to be a little bit different from customer to customer, from leadership team to leadership team, because there's different blends of personalities. There's different blends of management structure. There's different profitability structure amongst businesses. There's different management structure amongst farm businesses. There's not one single package that's going to work with everybody. So you need to have a value package. Again, not something that you're probably ever going to directly share with the customer, but it's a strategy, it's a game plan, so to speak, that you put together for dealing with prospects. And then be ready for objections. Anticipate what things are going to be objections from them. We're going to talk a whole section about objections. But as you get them, look for opportunities to probe further and find other needs. If a customer gives you hey, I just really like my current supplier, I'm not interested in switching, it's a good window to say, well, what is it about them that you really appreciate? What do they do well? That gives them the opportunity to share more information, and hopefully they do with you, because that's great market knowledge. But you're always looking to deepen the trust of the relationship. You're trying to develop that further, so at some point in time when there is an opportunity to sell to a prospect that you've been working so hard to get, that phone call comes your way and not to a competitor. If you do these things well, you're going to become a trusted and reliable resource in your marketplace. People are going to call you. They're going to anticipate and expect great ideas from you, even if you're not currently selling them something. They're going to start to say, hey, when he or she shows up in my driveway and jumps out of their pickup truck and they're here for a reason, they leave me of something of value. They leave me something to think about. And eventually they're going to call you when they need something. They're going to call you when they're contemplating something. It doesn't guarantee a purchase, but it does guarantee an opportunity. And that's really where you need to start most of the time. There's a lot of different things that, as we transition and kind of close out this section, my father-in-law spent basically his whole career in equipment sales, and just kind of friendly way became known as Uncle Carl. And if I brought him in to speak into class, he would not strike you as that, stereotypical salesperson, the fast-talking, quick-witted, always has, a right-off-the-cuff solution for you. He's a little quiet, a little reserved, very contemplative, but became such a trusted resource in his marketplace to get that moniker Uncle Carl from people who had no relation to him whatsoever. And customers and prospects knew that if they called him with a concern, he was going to give them an honest evaluation and a great solution suggestion. And he was so good at it that competition hired him away. And lots of his customers followed him to a competitor. And so that's the mark of a great salesperson, and doesn't have to be that prototypical or stereotypical thing, kind of personality that you may be picturing in your head. So again, take-home messages here: always have a plan. Identify your key prospects, develop that strategy, ask great and good probing questions, and take excellent notes. We're going to start applying these things soon, but thanks for tuning in to this video lecture section in Unit 4.